Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Road Coach Podcast. This is your host, Rob, and this is the show where I share what I've learned from years of living on the road away from home through research and experimentation, so that if you're like me and you live away from home a lot of the time, you can not only survive, but thrive, even when you're out of your element. So today, a couple new things that I'm going to try to do. One, just got a microphone, so I'm hoping the sound is a little bit better on this than it has been in the past. But if you've suffered through my laptop microphone for the last few episodes, then thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate you sticking around. Hopefully it sounds much better moving forward. And number two is I am now 2 weeks post double jaw surgery, so I still am a little puffy, and I still have some numbness in my face, so it's tough to enunciate. But I'm finally at the point now where I can start to eat solid food and where I can start to get back to the gym. And so I thought it would be a great time to start a 6-week post-surgical sort of rebound. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm about 5'7" in shoes, 5'6 3/4" maybe. Going into surgery, I weighed 161 pounds. I was pretty healthy. I was pretty muscular, lifting some, what I think, pretty heavy weights for my size at the gym. And now 2 weeks post-surgery, barely being able to eat, mostly a liquid diet, struggling to get enough calories in because I can barely move my mouth. As of this morning, I weighed in at 146.6 pounds. So I've lost 15 pounds since surgery, which is pretty aggressive in 2 weeks. I'm sure some people would love to do that, lose 7.5 pounds a week, but it's bordering on unhealthy, obviously. And now that I can get back to the gym, I want to get back to where I was on a fitness level. So with that being said, as the old adage goes, plan the work and then work the plan. I thought I'd share with you guys what I'm going to do over the next 6 weeks to bring myself back to sort of tip-top shape, or what is tip-top shape for me. Anyways, that's the goal. So as the other saying goes, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And we've all seen it, especially for those of us who live on the road. If we're not planning ahead and sort of anticipating the situations we're going to be in, like going out with colleagues after hours, having to eat at restaurants, being in foreign places with not good gyms, all that kind of stuff. If we don't prepare for it in advance, then chances are most of the time we're going to make worse decisions than we would if we did plan ahead. So with that, I've developed a 6-week plan that I'd like to stick to. It's 6 steps, 6 weeks. Should be fairly easy for me to remember, but I'll also save a copy of it so that I can look at it whenever I feel like I'm getting off track and remind myself of what I promised myself. So for anyone who's trying to get back into shape after surgery, or get back into shape, or get into shape for the first time, or get back into shape, from years ago, this is a pretty good plan. And if you live on the road, if you stick to something like this, I think that you'll find you get really good results really, really quickly. So number 1, gram of protein per pound of body weight per day, but doing that without overeating. Okay. So if I want to get 150 to 170-ish grams of protein per day, it's not necessarily that it's hard to get that much protein, but it's hard to get that much protein and not eat 4,000 calories. And if you're doing that, then you're going to gain weight very quickly, and it's going to be fat that you're gaining. So you want to avoid that. And there's a couple ways you can sort of help yourself not overeat, but also get the protein that you need to get. So the big one for me is planning my meals the night before, or for a longer trip, planning them before I even leave for the entire trip, anticipating where I'm going to be, where I'm going to eat, what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat. Knowing that in advance really, really helps you make better decisions when things get thrown at you, right? We can all only make a certain number of decisions per day. On average, believe it or not, we make about 35,000 decisions per day. You can look it up. And at a certain point, we get decision fatigue, where we just can't make good decisions anymore because our body is run down, and our capacity to make good, sound decisions goes out the window. We end up acting on habit or emotion, right? So if you pre-decide, essentially, some certain things, then you're going to be able to sort of go through what you want to go through on a daily basis, especially with your food, without having to make a decision, so to speak. So what I'm going to do, obviously, is plan meals at least at minimum the night before. But for a big long work trip, it's going to be ahead of the trip itself as much as I possibly can within my control. Bring my protein mixture on the road, so I've got a mixture that I stick to as much as I can at least, and that's usually my first meal of the day, and that consists of skim milk. I buy Fairlife ultra filtered skim milk because it's got extra protein in it. And whey protein that's in milk is a complete protein, which I really like. And then I have a scoop of Athletic Greens, which is a green supplement, a scoop of what's called whole earth and sea protein in greens, which is a fermented green protein mix with, it's got 21 grams of protein, but also a full green supplement for the day, and it's got 5 different mushrooms in it. Because it's fermented, it doesn't bloat you, so it's a great protein mix. If you want, I did an episode both on my protein shake that I do, and I did an episode on how to eat the right amount of protein. So feel free to go back and scroll through some older episodes if you want to hear more detail about that. And then I throw 3 raw eggs in it and I shake it up. So the nice thing about that is going on the road, I can take my Athletic Greens and my scoop of protein in greens, throw it in a Ziploc bag, one Ziploc bag is one day. I can shove those all inside a shaker cup, and I can just throw my shaker cup in my carry-on suitcase, and it doesn't take up much room for the road, and I can make sure that I can start my day with that. The beauty of that is no matter what hotel you're staying at, you can ask for milk, and you can ask for eggs, and you can get pretty much the same mix that you do at home, and get a high protein content meal for your first meal of the day. That's also lower on the total calorie end anyways. And then point C there on number 1 is keep my protein ratio above 7.5% of total calories. So I've done an episode on this as well. I believe it was episode 2. You can go back and take a look. But essentially, with anything that you're eating, if you divide the total grams of protein by the total calories in that food, it'll give you a ratio. And if you keep that ratio above 7.5%, then you can eat 150 grams of protein in a day while only eating 2,000 calories. So it's a good way to kind of measure. And of course, you can mix and match. If you're eating something like, mozzarella cheese it's about 5% protein to calories, and then mix it in with like chicken that is like 21% protein to calories. You can kind of mix and match and find that ratio so that your total meal can be above 7.5% without every single thing that you're eating being above 7.5%. Just as a side note to that, I don't count vegetables or fruit as calories at all. I don't put them in my calculations. I eat as many vegetables and fruit as I want, because I don't think it affects anything overall. With that being said, I don't drink fruit juice. Actually eat fruit, because the fiber in the fruit will stop you from eating too much of it long before you overeat. So that's my meals. And then in terms of fitness, cardio 4 to 5 times a week. I wasn't allowed to do cardio post-surgery, but now that I've hit the 2-week mark, I'm allowed to go to zone 2 on a stationary bike. I think the idea here is that the surgeon, anything high impact, I might damage the hardware that's in my face now. So they want me to do something that's, relatively hard to hurt myself on, I guess. So I'm allowed to stationary bike starting tomorrow. So 4 to 5 times a week, stationary bike for 20 minutes. I'm only allowed to go to zone 2 cardio. And the reason for that is they don't want the blood pressure to get too high, because they did a lot of work in my sinuses and they don't want things to like open up and start to bleed too early. So the idea is that for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do zone 2 cardio on a stationary bike 4 to 5 times a week, and then I can start running again. I absolutely love running. I think running is one of the best cardio things that you can do. Anyone can do it, assuming you have legs, and no other sort of handicap that you're working with. But you can also do it anywhere, and you can do it at any time of year, really. Even I live in Canada. The winters get to like minus 15, minus 20 where I live some days. And as long as you have the right gear, you can run literally anywhere. So I find it great because you're not limited by travel. You can run anywhere in the world. All you need is a pair of running shoes. and then the right outerwear depending on the weather, and you can literally run wherever you are. So I find running the best sort of cardio because you don't need any gear. Simple to travel with. And then obviously weightlifting is a big part of my fitness regime, and I want to start that again 4 to 5 times a week. I haven't been able to do anything, which is part of the reason I lost a lot of muscle in the last 2 weeks from surgery. So I have to start light. Starting this week, I'm allowed to lift 40% of my max. So this is something that I can do like 20 plus reps of, but at least it gets me back in the motion of things. And then after that, for a week, I can hit 60 to 70%, and then I can get back to my regular schedule after that. So by the time I get to the end of my 6 weeks, I should have had 4 weeks of my old routine, and I'm hoping that I'm back at the same sort of strength level by that point if I follow all of these things as I go. So that's going to be my weightlifting routine. And then my travel keys. So in the next 6 weeks, 50 to 60% of my time during the work week anyways, I'm going to be overnighting somewhere because I travel so much for work. And so that includes like some trips that might be 5 days long, some trips that might be 2 days long, but all in all, it's going to be 50 to 60% of my time over the next 6 weeks. And it's important to know that up front because travel obviously throws a huge wrench in your routine, right? Which is why I do this podcast in the beginning or in the first place. So because of that, I want to plan accordingly. So I plan my hotels according to the gym accommodations that they have. I try to pick hotels that have decent gyms. At the very least, have a full like Nautilus body machine that's got different attachments for it, so that you can do all sorts of different workouts on it, including chin-ups, but like lat pull downs and curls and tricep extensions and basically a full bodied cable machine that has different attachments. I try to get that at the very minimum, and then dumbbells. And I do that by using the Bonvoy app. So I'm a Bonvoy member, and I'll do a full episode, probably more than one at some point, on all the rewards programs that are out there and which ones I choose and why based on my travel. But I'm a loyal Bonvoy person when it comes to hotels. I think they have the best rewards program for where I travel. And they give me the best returns on my investment. So by using that, I can kind of pick and choose the balance between the cost of the hotel and then the amenities that they have. And the gym is the biggest thing for me that I need as an amenity on the road. So that's what I look at when I'm booking. And then I also plan my hotels according to the proximity to a Fit for Less. And for those of you that are outside Canada, there's a really big gym chain here called Good Life Fitness. It was actually started in my hometown of London, Ontario. And over the last couple of years, they've opened a bunch of new outlets called Fit for Less. And essentially, it's a full gym with all the equipment that you need, dumbbells up to 75 pounds in most of them. And then a lot of them have been opening these sort of higher end black card member areas that have dumbbells up to 100 pounds, but they've got full benches, squat racks, Smith machines, and then every other machine that you could use for any workout that you need. So they're, when the hotel gym doesn't cut it, the Fit for Less is the best place to go. And for me, every major city in Canada pretty much now has a Fit for Less. So as a black card member, I can get into any one of those gyms. So I kind of plan accordingly to where I can get to those gyms if the hotel gym isn't going to cut it, or if I'm doing a heavier workout that I need to do. And the beauty of the Fit for Less is they don't have any trainers, and they often aren't staffed, but they're open 24 hours, so it keeps the cost low. I think my membership is like, you'd have to check the website to be sure, but I want to say $13 every 2 weeks, something like that for Black Card, which gets me into any gym anywhere in Canada except for the province of Quebec, which I'm hoping, Fit for Less, that changes soon. And then the key with my travel is it's very difficult. Usually I got to be at the hospital for my job at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. at the latest. So it's hard to get like a full cardio and weightlifting in the morning, especially if I'm out late the night before for a work dinner that might go to like 10 p.m. or something like that. So I always try to do cardio at least in the morning, get in my run or get in my stationary bike at least for the next 2 weeks, because that only takes me 20-25 minutes. And then I can still shower and be out the door early, and then I'll do my weightlifting after work, because the beauty of being on the road is that after work, I don't have to be with the family cooking dinner and cleaning up from dinner. Usually we're going out for dinner, so I get like an hour or two gap by the time I'm done at the hospital before I have to go for dinner. So that's usually the way I plan it. Cardio morning, weightlifting afternoon. And then number 5 in this whole plan is obviously minimal booze. Booze wreaks havoc on your system. It wreaks havoc on your decision making. It gets metabolized first because it's empty calories. Alcohol is so easy to burn that it goes straight to your liver and then instantly to energy. So if you figure there's, let's say, 200 calories in a beer, as soon as you drink that beer, the first 200 calories you're metabolizing is that beer, no matter what. Your body goes for that first because it's the easiest to burn. So anything else you're eating at the same time. If you're sedentary, at least with my baseline, like basal metabolic rate, I burn about 100 calories an hour if I'm not moving. Okay, so, and I know that from my fitness watch and apps and stuff like that. I keep track of it. So that means if I have a beer for the next 2 hours, anything else I consume is going straight to my fat stores. So people often confuse that and they think, well, alcohol's okay as long as I keep track of the calories and I don't overdo it. Well, yeah, it's true to an extent, except for the fact that your body burns that first. So anything else that you consume, your body goes, I don't need this right now, instantly to fat stores, and you got to burn that off later. So it's not as simple as keeping the calories in check. It's about when you drink and what you're eating while you're burning off that booze at the same time. So I always just try to keep booze to a minimum, especially for this next 6 weeks. I'm going to try not to drink at all. But I do have a boys' golf trip in that there as well, so I got a plan for that as well. And definitely the key for this is I never drink 2 nights in a row. Booze really interrupts your sleep. And so even if you just have one drink, it will interrupt your sleep. You won't get the same amount of sleep. You will sleep lighter. You will have more REM cycles, less deep sleep. And whether or not you think it affects you, it affects you. And it affects your judgment the next day, and it affects your willpower and your decision-making power the next day. So that it's a lot easier to just say, maybe I don't need a workout today. Or, you know what? A poutine would be a lot better than a salad at lunch today. And all of a sudden your routine quickly gets thrown out the window, and 1 or 2 drinks the night before turns into a suboptimal next day, which then makes you make worse decisions that night, and the whole cycle perpetuates itself. So the idea here is minimal booze, definitely never drinking 2 days in a row, even if it's only 1 drink. And then the last thing is prioritizing sleep. I usually try to get between 8 and 9 hours of sleep. I know there's a lot of people out there right now who think that, the best way to get ahead is like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, stay up later than everyone, get up earlier than everyone. Your body needs sleep. It's where you do all your reparation internally. It's where you store your long-term memories. It's where you learn, where anything that you've learned throughout the day, that stuff becomes sort of more permanent in your brain while you sleep. It helps recover, and it helps prevent injury, especially if you're working out really hard too. So sleep is a huge priority for me. And especially when going through different time zones, I'm going to make sure that I'm planning my sleep accordingly. So there you have it, my 6-week, 6-step post-surgery rebuild, rebound plan. Until next time, if you're on the road like me, I hope you're thriving even when you're out of your element. Cheers.